Good morning, everybody. Welcome along to Donington Park for day 2 of this British GT event, and we are kicking off our day with more Ginetta Junior action, the Michelin Ginetta Junior Championship that thoroughly entertained us yesterday afternoon with the race of the season so far. Certainly crammed an awful lot of drama and excitement into the 20 minutes, and the drivers hopefully managed to get a bit of sleep last night because they're up bright and early this morning to kick-start our Sunday of motorsport entertainment. The cars lining up on the grid, ready to head out on to their green flag lap, after which 20 minutes of excitement will begin. Andy McEwen here in the commentary box, Kai Bachin back alongside me again for a total of 6 Ginetta races over the course of the day, and I'm very happy personally that we're starting off with the juniors, because this is guaranteed, based on yesterday's race anyway, to wake us up.
Yeah, definitely the most chaotic and energetic of the races that we saw yesterday, and provided the most action for us in the commentary box and for everybody watching at home as well. We finished it off with Ginetta Juniors yesterday, and we're starting it off with it today, and what a day it will be. Yesterday, just a bit of a sneak preview of what we have in store for us today. As you mentioned, we have 6 races over the course of we have what is going to be 9 races over the course of the weekend there. A little bit of an issue there with Fernandez's car at the back of the grid. The marshal's having a bit of an inspection, but it looks like we shall be going green sometime soon.
Yeah, Chase Fernandez retired to the pit lane late in yesterday's race, so either damage or some sort of mechanical malady putting him out of the race, and I wonder whether perhaps the marshals were just checking there wasn't still an ongoing issue, but it looks as though they've given him the thumbs up to head out on the green flag lap, which should begin in a moment or two. Yesterday's race, as Kai was saying, was very exciting. We had a lot going on and an awful lot to talk about. It was a race that was won on the road by Freddie Slater, but he was one of a whole host of drivers handing out time penalties, most of them 5-second penalties for, guess what, exceeding track limits. So Hugo Schwarzer, who was second on the road, having come through from the back of the top 5 into second place in the closing stages, picking his way through all of the drama and chaos, he actually inherited the race victory. And that's of some significance, because Freddie Slater had won all but one race coming into the weekend so far this season, had built up a healthy little championship cushion, and as a result of losing out on that race victory and dropping down into 5th position on corrected times, he loses a chunk of that championship advantage. He does, though, still start on pole position for this race, the grid for which is based upon 2nd fastest lap times from qualifying yesterday. So Freddie Slater for our racing has Alicia Parmovsky in the Elite Motorsport car for company on row 1. Then it's Luca Hopkinson and Charlie Hart, who had a time penalty yesterday and damage after a couple of collisions in the closing stages. Then yesterday's winner Hugo Schwarzer is 5th alongside Leo Robinson, ahead of Finn Harrison and Henry Jocelyn, who was also in the wars but is showing good pace this weekend. Mikey Porter likewise should move forward from 9th on the grid. He starts alongside Mackenzie Douglas on row 5. Row 6 for Freddie Allen and Felix Livesey, with Adu Robinson the Spaniard and Harry Moss sharing row number 7. Row 8 then is where you find Holly Mile there in the number 23 car. Tom Spragg from Prep Tech UK is next, ahead of Bria Anglis, and Reza Swarathan starting even further back on the grid than he did yesterday. One of the championship frontrunners, definitely worth keeping an eye on. Then Chase Fernandez will start at the very back of the 19 car grid. So cars made their way past the exhibition straight into the Fogarty S's, and lots of drivers, as I suggested there, Kai, starting a little bit out of position, I would say. We saw yesterday quite clearly in Ginetta Junior racing at Donington Park, you can overtake, you can make progress, but it is important to try and get away with that lead group, isn't it? So those starting further down the order have to get a wriggle on here.
Yeah, 100%, especially the drivers that feel like they should be further up. They may be further up on the starting grid yesterday due to their fastest lap being better than their previous fastest lap, but obviously this going off, as you said, the 2nd fastest time set today. Here's Charlie Hart. It looks like that front of that car is fully repaired, as yesterday it was looking to be at 90-degree angle as he came down the straight. It
wasn't in showroom condition anymore, was it?
No, not
after
at all.
Yesterday's race, Charlie Hart involved in a couple of collisions towards the end of the race, mainly around the Melbourne Loop and the Goddard's hairpin, so he thankfully has been able to rely upon the Elite Motorsport team to fix the car and get him back out there. Got a glimpse there of the 23 car of Holly Mile, but there, Hugo Schwarzer, yesterday's winner, moves up now into 2nd place in the championship. Early days, we're not even halfway through the season yet, but he is on 184 points. Freddie Slater points leader on 210, so it's still a 26-point cushion, but it is creeping down, and if Freddie Slater were to have another slip up today, then Hugo would be right on his coattails. Of course, Freddie Slater does start from pole though, and that is the ideal place from which to try and get his winning run back on track. The cars line up then ahead of 20 minutes of racing, the second race of the weekend here in the Michelin Ginetta Junior Championship. Red lights go on, red lights go out now. Really aggressive start there from the 48 car of Luca Hopkinson, immediately moving to the inside to try and cover. Hugo Schwarzer doing the same behind, but it's neck and neck again between Freddie Slater and Alicia Parmovsky for the lead. Parmovsky on the right, Slater on the left, just as they were into turn one yesterday, and it's the same result with Freddie Slater retaining the advantage as they make their way through Hollywood and down the hill. And now one of his R-Racing teammates coming up to challenge for second as well. That is Luca Hopkinson up alongside Parmovsky. Has he got second place? Well, Charlie Hart might be the first person to work that out because he's got a grandstand view of this battle. He goes to the inside, through will go Hopkinson, and Charlie Hart follows him. So Alicia Parmovsky, as we saw yesterday, Kai, fighting it out around the outside of Redgate, but ultimately losing out.
Parmovsky still in the walls there as she made her way out of the old hairpin, still side by side with Charlie Hart. Oh, and two drivers off. That's Leah Robinson. Oh, very heavy into the wall there. Hopefully the driver's all okay from that one. That was number 37 and the 38. So the 37 being Leah Robinson, the 38 being Finla Harrison. So both those drivers going veering off into the wall after heavy contact between two of them. Down the inside, we saw a move there. That was the number 78 making his way through, just trying to make up a couple of positions as we go through the field. That was Reza Siawufin, as he made up a few off that starting place. You can see in the background a few drivers still side by side trying to sort out their positions as they go down towards the Yetters.
Yep, into the left right they go. Reza Siawufin looking like he's making some good progress. The next target for him will be Henry Jocelyn, who started about 8 or 9 places further up the grid than he did. Almost certain that we'll see a safety car at some point. Oh, big dive there from Hugo Schwarzer, and he clatters into the side of Charlie Hart. Around he goes, and yesterday's winner unfortunately goes from hero to zero there with a very late move into the Melbourne hairpin, and almost ended up gaining 2 places out of that, but a bit of contact sends him around. There is the best news all day, though. They are the 2 drivers involved in the shunt between Starkeys and Schwantz Curve, both walking away. So Finn Harrison, Leo Robinson both appear to be okay. The same cannot be said for their cars, though, and the teams will have plenty of work to do to get those machines ready for this afternoon's 3rd and final race of the weekend. So through Redgate Corner go the top 2. Freddie Slater even leading by nearly a full second over Hopkinson second, Charlie Hart third, surviving that clash with Hugo Schwarzer. And it's Alicia Parmovsky here, Kai, who seems to be struggling under big threat now from the rapidly starting Mikey Porter, excuse me.
Yeah, Mikey Porter doing a good job here. You can see all over the back of Parmovsky right now as they go down towards the old hairpin. Parmovsky covers on the inside. Porter trying to go the long way round, trying to get the switch back off a good exit. Not able to do so this time round. We now go back up the hill, and what a run here that you can see. One driver going round again. Everybody doing a good job to avoid that car.
That's Felix Livesey, who was in the gravel trap yesterday, I seem to recall, at the chicane. Now, has that car stalled? If it has, it's right in the middle of the road at one of the fastest parts of the circuit. On board again here with Mikey Porter, who's been bump drafting Alicia Parmovsky around most of the lap, but now he runs wide at Coppice Corner, and through on the inside goes Henry Jocelyn and one of the Fox Motorsport cars. That was Mackenzie Douglas. Reza Siawufin is in this group as well, so that could be 3 places lost, and Jocelyn isn't done yet. Goes up alongside Parmovsky now to the outside into the chicane. Very late on the brakes, but Parmovsky rolled into the corner a little bit faster. Track limits? What track limits? Straight over the curbs they go, and it is Parmovsky who stays ahead, but Henry Jocelyn is well up for the fight today.
Yeah, brave attempt for a move there from Jocelyn. He's going to have to cover the inside as they go down towards the Melbourne hairpin. Everybody just about filing through. You can see in the background there, that's the 24 trying to get involved as Mackenzie Douglas tries to make up a few positions as he goes through. There's yellow flags out, and is that a safety car that's now been deployed?
It is indeed. So whether this is for the lap 1 incident or because Felix Livesey is stuck on the track at the old hairpin, I'm not so sure. But either way, we're going safety car. And, well, ordinarily under these circumstances, I'd say all of the gaps will close. There weren't really any gaps to start with, this being Ginetta Junior Racing after all. But Freddie Slater did have 0.6 of a second in hand over Luca Hopkinson. That will now, of course, disappear. Luca Hopkinson, non-finisher yesterday, one of 3 R-Racing cars that failed to finish. There, most likely, is the cause of the safety car. Then the 2 cars off. Bit of barrier damage to be repaired. The car's clearly in a dangerous position as well. But as we saw, both drivers are okay. So, lively start to the race, and with the safety car out on track now, we might be able to start piecing together a little bit of what happened. Incidentally, I've just seen out of the window, Felix Livesey did just come through to complete that lap, so he is still in the race. The only two cars we've lost them, Leo Robinson and Finn Harrison, down at this part of the circuit, where it's not uncommon to see cars making side-to-side contact, but thankfully relatively rare to see them spearing off into the barriers in quite that manner. So there the two cars sit at the side of the road, both heavily damaged. That will require a bit of time to be recovered, so it gives us time to dig deep into what was going on. This is Mikey Porter's view of a good start there from Finn Harrison. Makes a bit of contact with the back of Hugo Schwartz's car on the run into Redgate Corner. And then where do you go? You've got a face full of Ginetta G40s. He goes up the middle. There's a little bit of paint traded on the left, maybe on the right too. And Finn Harrison right in front of us. Now remember, Harrison's one of the two cars who in 20 seconds or so will be heading for the barriers. So I wonder whether Mikey Porter can give us a bit of a better idea as to what was going on. Out through the crane of curves, cold tyres, careful not to lose the rear as they drop down the hill, and then tentatively pitches it into the old hairpin. Now watch the two cars ahead, Harrison on the right. I reckon that's Robinson on the left, and Robinson is, there just wasn't quite the space. Neither of them really giving each other a huge amount of room there, Kai. Your thoughts?
It's definitely a touch and go incident. We'll have a look at it again. It just looks there like the 37 of Leo Robinson tries to close the door, tries to squeeze off Harrison. It's definitely a difficult situation to call there. I'm sure the stewards will have a lot more angles, a lot more views to look at, as we're obviously not the stewards. We're the commentators, but we do have to call it as it goes.
Yes, but there's times like this where I'm grateful I'm not one of the stewards.
No,
it's a thankless task, unfortunately. One thing I will say is that the punishment didn't fit the crime, did it really? There was a tiny little touch at a very high-speed part of the circuit. It's really unfortunate the damage that's been done there, and it was almost actually the secondary impact as the cars bounced into each other off the barriers that did the most damage in some ways. So anyway, teams will be counting the costs of that already, but will be more than grateful to see that their drivers both appear to have emerged unscathed. So Freddie Slater the leader then, Luca Hopkinson second, Charlie Hart there, we're riding on board with him in fact, is in third place, Alicia Parmosky fourth, Henry Jocelyn fifth, having a really impressive weekend here. Henry Jocelyn might have retired from yesterday's race, but he showed top 5 or 6 potential, and he's now running inside the top 5 ahead of Porter. Reza Swarathan, meanwhile, Kai, from basically the back of the grid, is in 7th already after, what, a lap and a half of racing. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we saw the 78 getting stuck in off the start. He was making a few positions and taking advantage of the situations that were going on around him. We're just having a look here at the cars being recovered and taken off the circuit. Luckily, we have great machinery to allow us to do so as quickly as possible, as the drivers are just going down through the bottom section past the old hairpin. Now, this is where the incident did take place. So the drivers just slowly through this section, trying to not cause any more incidents, especially under safety car. That's the last thing you want, obviously, under a safety car. It's a very important time for these drivers. They have a lot that they need to think about and they need to do with the cars. They need to maintain the internal temperature, the engine temperature, the tire temperature is probably one of the most important things that you need to keep an eye on right now. As you don't want to overheat your tires right now as you're under safety car. You don't want to let your tires go below an optimal temperature. You want to try and keep them in that sweet spot as long as possible, so when we do go green eventually, you're ready to go straight from the gun and take advantage of other drivers that weren't able to do so.
Yeah, exactly, especially when you're faced with the crane of curves pretty soon after that restart. You definitely want some heat in the tyres for heading down that spectacularly fast and undulating sequence of corners. Oops, that was almost a secondary accident as the car's being recovered down at Starkey's, but the Marshals doing a fantastic job. Might be relatively early in the morning, but the Marshals have been likely on post for about an hour now, ready and raring to go, and they always do a fantastic job of recovering vehicles safely but efficiently and rapidly as well. Sadly, not quite going to be rapid enough to get a restart this time. I don't think we're going to have one more lap behind the Ginetta safety car, which will take us into the second half of this second race of the weekend. And Freddie Slater, well, a tad disappointed, I think, about yesterday, especially having won on the road. You know, a 4th or a 5th place finish he probably could have taken if he'd been running in 4th or 5th all race, but to cross the line thinking you've won and then to be handed that penalty is disappointing. Yes, he had that big points lead, but in moments like that, Kai, that doesn't really matter too much to the driver. They just want the trophy.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, points is always important going towards your championship bid, but with such a large gap that Slate has already created over the course of the season, which he's already established over the drivers in behind him, he's not really worried about gaining just a few points. He wants to win every single race. He wants to get as many races as he can under his belt. And we actually spoke to Freddie before the beginning of the season. We asked him what was his biggest goal for the season. He said he wants to break the record of the amount of wins taking place in a season, and he's on course to do so far. He's only lost 2 races this season, obviously winning 5 of the races so far. The driver's going back down the hill. The cars have been cleared. Here's the incident there. We see Schwarzer diving down the inside of Pomorski, just overcooks it and clatters into the side of Charlie Hart there, rotating the car, and unfortunately that's going to drop him down to the back of the grid after what was such a high of a day yesterday, a low to start the race.
Yeah, got his first victory of the season yesterday. It might now be hard pushed to repeat that here this morning. I'm not even convinced he was trying to pass Palmovsky. I think he just missed his braking points, and then rather than running to the back of Alicia, sort of dived to the inside to avoid her and ended up clattering into Charlie Hart there. So really lose-lose situation, because both of those drivers are his teammates. So whichever way he went, he was likely to make contact with another Elite Motorsport car. There is the onboard from Mikey Porter behind, bang into the side of Charlie Hart's car. But that was 3 Elite Motorsport cars going into a corner, and one of them going a little bit too fast, and yeah, very, very nearly caused complete disaster for the team that really are going up against our racing in the championship this year. There is a teams championship, and that's going to be almost as exciting to monitor this season, Kai, as the drivers championship, because I keep saying that it's all about our racing and Elite Motorsport at the front. Okay, we get the odd Assetto or Fox car up near the front, but really our racing and Elite Motorsport, the most numerous car on the grid. Only 9 points between the 2 teams in the championship at the moment. Our racing ahead on 372, Elite on 363. And we don't talk about teams championships often in junior racing, but to the teams themselves, that is hugely important.
Yeah, the team's championship, it's a big deal for all of the teams taking part. I don't think the drivers will majorly be focused on it whilst they're in the cars. They obviously just want to be walking away with the highest position possible in the drivers' championship. But I think every driver in a team, if they're able to take the team championship, they'll feel like they will have had an impact on that team's championship. And it's definitely something to be proud of on the side of the drivers, as well as everyone that's taken part. And it's a good hats off to the mechanics and everyone behind the scenes that also does a lot of work to get these cars prepared to get them on the circuit.
Exactly so. Those teams will now be watching on anxiously as we prepare for a restart with just under 8 minutes of racing to go. Freddie Slater leads them out of Goddard's, and the great work done by the marshals means that we are able to get another few laps of racing in here, 1 or 2 running wide onto the grass even before they get to the restart. But it's Freddie Slater who leads them down towards Redgate Corner then, with Luca Hopkinson in behind. Anyone going to make a jump to the inside at Redgate? Not at the front, but you can bet that Hugo Schwarzer is on the attack, and he is indeed looking at the inside there of the Fox Motorsports car, number 47 that was, of Harry Moss. Didn't get the move made on the way into Redgate Corner, but as they run wheel to wheel down the hill through Hollywood, they are perhaps going to exchange the position down at the old hairpin. Around the outside through the left, Harry Moss in fairness leaves Schwarzer plenty of space, and Hugo's going to go through, levers him aside, and that will now cost Moss a couple of extra positions.
Yeah, a lot of action here off the restart right now. We're looking at the number 19 just leading the way in this battle as we go down the hill, up the hill and through the section. We just saw Palmovsky there go through our vision. Not the start she would have been hoping for. Started on the front row of the grid, started in second position alongside Freddie Slater. Dropped a couple off the start, was able to regain those positions, able to gain a few off the actual start and off the restart. Not a bad jump. You can see our front 4 separated by pretty much nothing between those drivers. Slater, Hopkinson, Hart and Palmovsky all diving down towards the S's now. Heavy under braking there, that's Charlie Hart. You saw a little bit of tyre smoke, a little bit of a lock up on the brakes there. Palmovsky will try and take advantage of the lack of what will be momentum going down towards the hairpin down the bottom here. We're on board with Charlie Hart as we go down towards the hairpin and soon into Goddard's. A puff of smoke coming out the back of Hopkinson there.
Yeah, there was there, wasn't there, slightly, but nothing to worry about, I would suspect. 4-car breakaway at the front of the field, just about. There's a small gap back maybe to Mikey Porter in 5th, but in those top 4, we've got 2 Elite Motorsport cars following to our racing cars. So again, that team's championship battle really playing out in front of us. Freddie Allen up the inside of Harry Moss. In fact, defending a position there he was from Harry as they went through Goddard's corner. Across the line they go then. 7/10 of a second the advantage for Freddie Slater and a new fastest lap to boot. That's worth a bonus point in the championship, as here comes that battle that we were just mentioning through Goddard. They're heading into the right-hander at Redgate, and a defensive line there taken by Freddie Allen means that he retains 11th spot for now. And in fact, that delayed Moss on the exit and allowed Tom Spragg up the inside, so we might still see some positional changes just outside the top 10. Through the crane as they go. How's that one going to play out? Yeah, Spragg will go through there in the yellow-fronted Ginetta. Oh, and almost another place lost there by Harry Moss. He just got across in front of the 51 car of Adu Robinson. That was an aggressive defensive move, Kai.
Yeah, Edgy Robinson trying to take advantage of the situation at hand. You can see now trying to get involved in this battle. The number 31 as Livesey tries to go down the inside and around the outside of a very tricky place to get that one done. He's going to have to back out and slot in behind of Edgy Robinson. But we dive up the hill here. A great overtaking opportunity just before we make our way down towards the S's. If you get a good exit out of here, you might set yourself up nicely for the chicane. We see the drivers